How's it going, everybody? Simmons here, #1 US decathlete, Olympic hopeful, and the newest Juice Plus partnered athlete. I am so excited to join you guys today on JPTV to talk about fueling for gold. What I, as an Olympic hopeful, choose to put in my body to fuel myself to get my absolute best, not only on the track during my 5 or 6 hour practices, and also, of course, as I'm prepping for the Olympic Games in Tokyo for 2021. First off, guys, I'm a decathlete. I feel like there are a few track and field aficionados who will be listening in here, but also there's quite a few of the general public who have no idea what the decathlon is. So I've got to start by explaining what that event is. So the decathlon is what we in the track and field world call the combined events. It takes 10 different track and field events and combines them into one event. The decathlon, being 10, right, is those 10 events pushed in to 2 days worth of competition. On day one, you start off with the 100-meter dash, then you move to long jump, then shot put, high jump, and you end the day with the 400-meter dash. Then you get some rest, you come back on the second day, and then you start off with 110 hurdles, then discus, pole vault, javelin, and the 1500. The decathlon is really a whole athlete sport. Someone who's actually running the 1500 ends up looking a lot different than someone who's throwing shot put, as you can imagine. So as a decathlete, we really have to train our bodies in such a unique way to be able to not only be fast for the 100, to throw a good distance in shot put, discus, and javelin, to have the technical events like high jump and pole vault, but also be able to have the endurance side of things to be able to run the 1500. So a lot of people, when I'm talking about the decathlon, always ask me, how did you get into that? How did that start? I've never heard of this before. So it actually started for me in high school. I'm the younger brother of a guy that was an unbelievable athlete. He ended up going to Division I and playing football and had his shot at the league. And basically for a while, my freshman year of high school, I was known as Ben's little brother. Ben was this rock star on the track. And when I got into high school, the track and field coach looked at me and said, "You're Ben's little brother, aren't you?" And at that point, I hated being Ben's little brother. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm Ben's little brother." He's like, "Great, you're gonna run track for me." And I was like, "Sure, whatever, guy." I was playing football at the time. Eventually, he was a very, very good coach and a great guy. Actually got me to come out on the track and field team. His name was Matt Farmer. Matt Farmer was a decathlete at UC Irvine during his time and was a very stellar decathlete there. Talked me into doing it. And I did track my first year, but really only ran hurdles and kind of high jumped until randomly one day I went to go see, just as Ben's little brother, went to go see him compete in a track meet. And this was a really big track meet in the state of California where we're from. And it was where he was actually doing a decathlon. He had a training partner there that was supposed to show up there named Jordan, and he just disappeared on day of competition. So Farmer, being his natural persuasive self, said that I should run. Why don't you run as Jordan, since we already paid for this competition? And right, who am I but young, gullible Solomon? I ended up actually competing in that meet. And I remember my first decathlon was horrible, horrendous, disgusting. No point in doing it. I fumbled my way through all the events. Most of them I had never done before. I remember when I was actually running the 400 for my first time ever as a sophomore in high school, in the decathlon, I was running and I was fortunate enough to be in the same heat as my older brother as well, because he'd never run a 400 as well. And I remember getting around 125 meters into the race, and I'm running and I'm feeling so good about myself, and I'm looking around and I look and I see a butterfly and I'm like, man, that butterfly's pretty. And I'm running, I'm like, wait, I'm in the middle of the race. What am I doing thinking about a butterfly? So it just shows how not in the competition I was as a young guy. Ended up finishing the 400. It was disgusting. I barely broke 60 seconds. It was like watching slow motion running, but it was two people, my brother and I, laying our hearts out in the 400. So that being said, I've come a long way in the decathlon. In high school, I probably did another 2 or 3 after that, and actually ended up getting a scholarship to go compete at Eastern Michigan University. This is the jersey for them right here. And was recruited by a guy named Chris Huffins. He was a bronze medalist in the Sydney Olympic Games in the decathlon. And he sat me down in his office and said, Solomon, I wholeheartedly believe that you can be a better decathlete than I was. He's like, I want you to come to the school. I recognize it's a smaller school, but it's gonna be me and you for 4 years, and I'm going to make you a phenomenal decathlete. So basically right then I had some other visits lined up, but I basically signed my 4 years away and ended up going to Eastern Michigan. But actually when I got there, I had a little bit of an issue just because the coach actually that recruited me left a few weeks before I came onto campus. And I had no idea who my coach actually was, but I still showed up. And the guy that was coaching me was doing a fantastic job. He was actually an Eastern Michigan alumni, Gary Bastine. And we were training, and as well as doing the decathlon, I was also a triple jumper. So I was triple jumping into the sand, and I landed kind of weird and tweaked my knee, and didn't think much of it, went on and continued practicing. And maybe a few weeks later, I was, my knee just kept catching and popping and doing some weird stuff, which then I went and got an MRI on, and turned out that I actually tore my meniscus, and kind of did my research and thought it was going to be maybe a 2 or 3 week recovery. They're just going to go in there, snip the meniscus, give it some time to get the inflammation down, and I'd be back out on the track. Turns out that I actually went under the knife for a 9-month recovery. They completely repaired my meniscus in my left knee, and that was the process that really started me into serious athletics. I remember when I had that injury and came back home, and my mom seeing me for the first time all beat up, that my knee was banged up, and she was bawling to me, and like I sent my boys away to college, and he came back hurt because my brother actually came back with a shoulder surgery as well, so we were gimping around the house on the holidays. And I realized at that point that this is serious, that I am committing my body to something that I really didn't even understand the weight of, because up until that point, I'd never been hurt. At track and field and just athletics in general, whether it was football or track or just whatever rec league games we play on the weekend, I'd never gotten hurt. Might have got a few bangs, a few bruises playing football, but nothing serious. But I remember coming home and thinking about how serious athletics were at that point. And I remember there was actually a day I was praying because I wasn't sure what this recovery would look like, where I said, Lord, if you're able to heal this injury, like I'm going to compete for you. I am going to represent you on the track. So graciously and faithfully, he recovered me. And that's when I significantly started to take track and field very seriously. Up until that point, I was a fairly mediocre decathlete by many standards. I think I scored right around 6,000 points coming out of high school. And then got back into college, and I was serious. My coach at that point, Gary Bastine, the alumni, actually stepped away from coaching. I got a new coach in who is actually a shot put coach, a guy by the name of Steve Nance. If there was anybody in the country that I could have picked as my coach, it would have been him. There was not a more perfect person for me during that phase. He was fun, awesome, energized, positive, and knew nothing about how to train a decathlete. So it was such a good experience for me to really have someone who was learning the process as I was learning how to be a decathlete. We ended up spending those 4 years together, and he gave so much, not only to myself, but to the people that he coached, even to the place where he chose to stay during my senior season and train my graduating class, despite his wife moving away to continue a corporate career. So he basically spent a year living by himself, dedicating himself to all of us on the track and field team. And it was so honorable to know that at the end of my career, which actually ended him and I at the 2016 Olympic trials, where that year we ended up taking 6th. And it was just such a cool experience to share that with someone who really built me from the ground up and made me everything about as an athlete. So the next step in my world in the decathlon, I was weighing whether or not I wanted to become a professional, and because there's kind of this bridge in the track and field world where there are people who are the 1% of the 1%, the guys that are the Olympic medalists, the Olympic gold medalists throughout their career. And frankly, I wasn't one of those guys. And those are the guys that are actually making money in this sport. And then there's this next tier of guys who's kind of a tier 2, who's extremely competitive, placing within the top, let's say top 5, top 6 at the US championships, that are really doing it for the love of the sport. And at that point, I was really one of those guys. And at that point, I also graduated with my master's degree in finance, and was really weighing, do I want to step into the corporate life, or do I want to continue in this athletic world? Which ultimately, I, fortunately for myself, decided to continue my athletic career. So I took 1 year there and was basically coaching at my alma mater and coaching myself professionally, which, if there's any coaches listening, I give you the utmost respect. Coaching is so much harder than training. You have to pay so much more attention to detail. You're standing, you're into it, you're emotionally invested, as opposed to an athlete that's physically and emotionally invested. But it's such a different requirement on the body. So I respect all the coaches out there who are listening. So during that year was the actual one of the worst years that I've actually trained. That first year that I spent as a professional, where I was coaching myself, just because it was such a difficult schedule. I was waking up at 5 a.m. to be able to get my lifts in, then I'd be in the office administratively all day, and then I'd be out on the track with the guys coaching for around 3 or 4 hours. And because I wanted to respect the position and the time that I was giving them and the position that I had at the university, I would then, after I coached them, step out and do my track and field work. So I was extremely exhausted by the end of the day and really wasn't putting my training first. But fortunately for me, during that year, right, I think everything that we do, God has a plan for. I didn't have a score, or I was coming off of an injury, and I didn't have a score good enough in the back pocket to actually go to the US championship that year. So as kind of being an already like upper tier decathlete, they sent me off to what's called the NACAC. I went up to, or actually it was the Capital Cup. I went up to Ottawa, Canada, and competed for Team USA there. Fortunately for me, that's where I actually met my now coach, Andy Egerth. He was the team coach, the Team USA coach for that meet. So at that point as a coach, I just wanted to talk shop with him. I knew he was a guy that was very fine-tuned in his coaching, very technical. So I just wanted to talk to him, and that conversation that we had after the decathlon actually ended up lasting, I think it was around 5 hours. After the decathlon, we were just sitting having dinner, and we ended up talking till 1 or 2 a.m. in the morning. And that conversation ended with him basically asking me, hey, you're serious about this. Do you want to be all in as an athlete? He's like, if so, like, consider it. I'd love to train you down in Atlanta. So I thought about it and prayed about it for a while, and truly, it was the best move. I ended up moving away from my position with the university, and I moved from Michigan down to Atlanta, where I knew nobody and nothing aside from this coach. Fortunately, when I got there, it was around February of 2018, and it was awesome. Getting there, training was so different than I experienced in college. It was so great to have someone who was a decathlon guy at that point in my life, that really tailored his training in the way that he needed things to be accomplished to who I was as an athlete. So then went there. First time I kind of broke into the true tier, the higher levels of being a decathlete, and broke the 8,000 mark was with him that year. And then we continued training together, and then went on to take second in the US in that year. And then the following year, which was pre-COVID, right, 2020, once again took second and qualified for the World Championships, where I ended up taking 8th, which ranked me as the top decathlete in the US. So my story in the decathlon is a lot different, because I truly felt like I was never one of those guys that just had it, that understood how to compete at a high level and was highly gifted. I was always one of those guys that was just working really hard and getting these small incremental gains, and every year kind of finding a little bit more out of themselves. So I truly do not feel like I've ever been somebody who just had the it factor. I've always been someone who has to pay attention to every little detail, trying to get 1% better in all of these areas to actually get to where I am. But with that being said, the decathlon is such a powerhouse event in the US historically. The US has had not only multiple world record holders and multiple Olympic gold medalists, we've had it all in the decathlon, and of course on the women's side as well in the heptathlon, that being 7 events. We've had guys like Ashton Eaton, who was a prior world record holder before 2018 when that was actually broke. Before that, we had Dan O'Brien, who is again a world record holder. And we've had guys that absolutely crushed it on the Olympic and the world stage, like Trey Hardy and Brian Clay, and the list just goes on and on and on of the American greats in this event. So in the decathlon, there's a lot of weight to carry as one of the next guys that's on the list. And I'm so fortunate to take that on because I take it seriously. I truly do value every detail that I do within my training, whether that's, and I mean training as a whole, right? Not only what I'm doing on the track, what I'm doing in the weight room, what I'm doing in the kitchen, and trying to get every little degree to get better, not only for myself, but of course for our country on that Olympic stage. It will be such a pleasure and such an honor to be able to represent our country in that manner. That being said, it is so important to talk about nutrition, the X's and O's behind what I actually fuel my body physically with. The first part that I want to talk about is my physical fuel, right? I'm somebody who up until that point, actually, when I stepped into being a professional, didn't really take the nutrition aspect very seriously. I didn't understand it, and to be frank, to this day, I don't understand it all that I should. But fortunately for me, the pandemic came along, and I got married at the beginning of 2020. My wife, Lindsay, she is a Juice Plus partner, and she is also a health coach. We've moved across the country a few times for track and field already. Yes, in the pandemic year, we moved a couple times across the country. And because she's so gracious to me, pulling her across the country for this track and field dream, she has been very flexible with what she wants to do. So she actually took it upon herself to become a health coach. She's always been someone who's big in nutrition, but wanted to get a certification behind it. So she is my guru when it comes to what we're putting in my body. I remember the first time we were dating, she actually asked me, she's like, so I've heard you train like in track and field or something like that. And I was like, yeah, I do a little bit. She's like, are you on a strict diet? Like, what can you eat? Do you eat like all organic? Are you eating like heavy protein? Like what's your diet look like? And I was, one, starstruck just because she's absolutely gorgeous, but also stuck because I really didn't have all of the answers. So being at that, she is the health arm of the Simmons, of the team Simmons. She really does provide so much value for me in that aspect. As she is a Juice Plus partner, she actually brought Juice Plus to me the first time while we were dating. And I did my own research on the product and actually wanted to incorporate it into not only the supplements that I was taking, but really as a recovery modality to support my body, to bridge the gap of the things that I'm not able to eat every single day. So obviously, on the track, I'm spending right around 2 to 3 hours a day there, and also spending right around an hour and a half to 2.5 hours in the weight room a day. So as you can imagine, I burn a ton of calories. On average, on a good day on the track, I try to really consume right around from somewhere between 2,500 to 3,500 calories a day on the low end. So I'm always eating high protein and high carb. So that being said, I'm always breaking down my fibers and my muscle fibers, trying to repair them. And I feel like I'm constantly in a state of being sore. I don't remember a time that I wasn't sore as an athlete. And it kind of gets to a point all the time during the year where the soreness is present, but you're just so used to it at that point that you're just able to push on through it. So also within my diet, we're always trying to consume a high amount of leafy greens. Leafy greens, in terms of the color, I always try to eat the rainbow, right? Whether that's eating not only kale, whether that's eating like the butter lettuce, whether that's eating, I'm a big fan of bell peppers and carrots. Every single meal that you'll see, we have not only a salad with a little bit of like fruits and vegetables in it. And of course we love our fruits here. I think I eat blueberries like it's my job. Blueberries are the most delicious fruit in the entire world. I can eat them morning, day, and night. Anytime we're going out for breakfast, give me blueberry pancakes. So blueberries are my thing. Every day you'll see me noshing on some of them just because they're so high in antioxidants. They're so good. And that also, right, if we're talking about berries, have to talk about the Juice Plus Berry Blend. So what I actually choose to take, I take the Quad, which is the fruit blend, the berry blend, the omega blend, and the vegetable blend. I do that because, frankly, not every day am I able to get in all of the nutrition that I need. I don't have a consistent source of fatty fish, being salmon, so the omega blend is fantastic to supply that. I'm not able to every day eat all of the vegetables that I should and all of the fruits that I should and all the berries that I should, despite my love for blueberries. So it is fantastic. Juice Plus is fantastic with bridging the gap from the things that I am able to consume every day, right? Just because I have a full-time job and I'm always training, and of course I want to have a social life, help bridge the gap from stuff that I'm not able to take the time to prepare or purchase these meals, or my wife doesn't have the opportunity to do so either, that it helps facilitate what my body needs to recover to perform its best, truly. So the next piece of that is also the next bit of fuel being mental fuel. For me, mental fuel is not only what I'm choosing to commit myself to, but also what I'm choosing to not commit myself to. And I'm gonna explain that in a moment here. For me, my mental fuel comes from my why. The goal setting piece of fuel is pretty easy, right? Like, I want to make $1 million. I want to become an Olympian. I want to serve in some way, whatever it may look like for you. You know your goals. But the why behind it is so much more important. If someone wants to make $1 million just because it's gonna make them feel good, that's not a deep why. If someone wants to make it to the Olympic stage because it not only breaks down barriers from like a racial stance, but it breaks down barriers from what they think is possible for themselves and ultimately can change their family's trajectory, that's gonna propel them a little bit different than what someone else would be if it's just gonna be something that's fun. Don't get me wrong, training for the Olympic Games is very fun, but I take it seriously. I take it so seriously because my why is deep enough that I'm willing to wake up at 5 a.m. so I'm making sure I'm getting to the gym. I'm willing to step out in the middle of a workday so that way I'm getting my time out on the track. So the next piece of that, not only having your why and committing yourself to something that actually matters, the next piece is having something that you don't commit yourself to. It is so important in today's day and age when now, because of COVID, everyone's working from home. Everyone is working from home, that we have an opportunity to step away, to have a mental break, to debrief, to de-stress. For me, the really big way that I kind of mellow out and de-stress and relax is gardening. I know it sounds funny, but my mom has had a green thumb and always had a garden in our backyard while we were growing up. My grandmother has a green thumb and had a garden while she was growing up as well. And we love spending time with my grandmother as we were coming of age. And I'm so fortunate that my wife has also taken on those same reins. If you were able to see our house, we have plants everywhere. Our entire base floor, I have a few plants right over here on the windowsill. We love our plants and we love taking care of them and seeing the ways that they grow and develop, even to the place that we actually have invested into a tower garden. We're so excited that we have the opportunity to not only grow our own fresh and organic produce, but we're gonna have the opportunity to incorporate that produce that we're eating, or that we've grown ourselves, and actually eat it to serve it on the dinner table. It's gonna be so cool. We haven't had that opportunity yet because none of the plants that we have around our house are actually flowering or produce fruit, right, that we actually eat. So we're so excited for that piece to come to fruition. We'll let you guys know how the harvest actually goes when we get it. We're so excited for that piece. But it is so important for everybody to understand that they have to be able to say no to something, that they're not going to commit themselves to something. that for you may look like taking a bath. For some people, it may look like going on a run, which is another big one for me. And also working out, right? Ways that you de-stress after a long day, because I get it. Not only do I train for the Olympic Games, but I'm also a full-time financial analyst. So I get that time is of the essence, but having a place where you can mellow down, relax, and calm down, ultimately, so that way you can set those SMART goals, right? You have your goals that are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time sensitive, but you get there in a healthier way when you're relaxed, right? Okay, so the last piece of fuel that I want to spend some time talking about, for me, it's one of the biggest pieces that I actually put into my body, and I try to incorporate it every single day, actually is spiritual fuel. We have to recognize as people, there's a bit more to us than just the physical and the mental. What I'm talking about there, spiritual fuel, is peace. Where is it within you that you're making your decisions from? Where is it that you're processing your daily information from? And I hope for you that's from a place of peace. Because when it's from a place of peace, you'll be able to be your honest and true self. For me, my personal peace comes from the only place that I found that is lasting and everlasting is my relationship with Jesus. My relationship with Jesus gives me the ultimate level of peace. It's not attached to circumstances. It's not attached to things that I can actually do. It's just because of who I am. Now, I recognize not everyone holds that same belief, and I accept that. But I want you to ask yourself, where is it that you're going when you're on your mountaintop and when you're in the valley? Where is it that you're going to find your peace and your meaning? But I want to challenge you in this way to create some spiritual fuel as well. A big way to kind of recognize, if you're not in tune with it now, that there is something more to you is to recognize that there's other people's needs and to serve that need. If you take a moment and you serve someone within your community, right, whether that was something as simple and as easy as giving money, but the true thing that's going to matter is giving your time. If you take a moment and offer your time to somebody, right, there's a lot of people, parents in your neighborhood or your friends, I'm sure, who just want a break. And honestly, babysitting right now is probably the best thing that you can do for some parents in this COVID era. So offering your time, preparing meals, doing something to serve somebody in your community, and you'll recognize what it creates in you is that it makes an overflow. You'll have this fire of like, I want to not only serve people because I see what it meant to that person, but also I want to serve people because it provides me something. The return on investment, the ROI, right? I said I'm a financial analyst. The ROI of serving someone, it's completely unparalleled. Completely. It is exponential. So take the time and serve somebody and you'll recognize that overflow. You'll recognize that it creates peace from overflow from serving. And you will really recognize how you can create some fuel and it just creates this desire to continue that. So the big pieces of fuel that I put in my body are those physical, the mental, and the spiritual. It's truly something that I try to encompass into my training every single day because it really does affect the way that I actually turn out, not only on the track as a professional, personally, but also as I'm preparing to represent our fantastic country at the 2021 Olympic Games. So I truly do hope that you'll join me in the preparation for that, and when we actually realize this by following me on social media at @solo_Simmons on Instagram. I'm a big fan of Instagram, and I think it's going to be a great opportunity for not only me to partner with you guys, but also to provide feedback if you have any questions and truly just be near you and with you through these exciting and different times. And ultimately, right, you'll be able to offer a lot of encouragement and support to me as we're shooting to make the Olympic Games. So I truly do hope that you are going to take some of these and incorporate them into your life, that you've learned something here, and that we can join together not only to make our country and ourselves the absolute best it can be, but also take this fantastic product in Juice Plus and help it incorporate it into our daily lives so that way we are able to be our best selves personally, professionally, and of course, athletically. Guys, I'm Solomon Simmons. I'm so thankful that you took some time here to be able to spend it with me, and I'm really looking forward to representing our country at the Tokyo 2021 Olympic Games. Cheers.